introduce the moderator of tonight's event. I want to thank all my friends who are sitting up here on the panel, for coming and being part of this golden paradigm shift. And thank you for Move On for allowing me to have a platform to speak. Richard?
It's okay. I don't need a microphone.
No.
My name is Richard Bay. I went to the Yale School of Drama, so I don't think I need a microphone because I've played in bigger theaters than this. I was originally an actor. For years, I was in the media. I probably most infamously had a show called The Richard Bay Show that was syndicated across the country. I did People Are Talking, which was in New York. I did it also for 4 years in Philadelphia, and most recently, I am a radio talk show host. I was on WABC radio in New York 6 days a week, right after Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, and right before Michael Savage. And I was like the voice of reason sandwich between all the people shouting on there. I also do Sirius Left, which is on Sirius satellite radio station. I also, of course, I'm not a scientist. I'm not an engineer. A lot of the things that I'm going to hear about and you're going to hear about today, I want to, as a moderator, make them clear for you, because really what my interest and my field is communication. Earlier, before we started this, I heard Steve talking about how difficult it is to get people to change. And I would disagree. Frankly, in some ways, people change too easily. They run off to the store the morning they tell you, "It's now on sale for only 1 day. Get it down here right now. You'll miss it tomorrow. The televisions are 30% off." People get up and they run down. You can remember, if you went back 15 years and you talked about a computer, you know, having a computer in your house, or maybe 20 years it would be now. What?
30 years.
Oh, PCs. I didn't have a PC in 1990, 1995 or 1985, you know. Or I didn't have a cell phone until 2 years ago. But if you go back, when you watch a movie from the 80s, for instance, and that person's being chased by a murderer or a monster, and I go, "Why don't you take out your cell phone and call somebody?" Of course, they didn't have cell phones. Now everybody has a cell phone. People can change. Sometimes for the better, and as we saw in the Third Reich, sometimes for the worse. Sometimes a great communicator can have
You've got
terrible and dangerous message. Tonight, we're waiting to see what President Obama will say. He's scheduled to have a nationwide address. And there is a real yearning, at least in some part of this country, a great part, I think, and I have to believe the majority part in this country, that we hear a voice of leadership that recognizes the inevitable. It's not if we're going to change. It's when we're going to change. When we heard about the changes to our health care plan, a word you often heard over and over again was, "This is unsustainable, what we have now." The same is true of the way we use energy and the way we get energy. It's unsustainable. The question is, which area of the world is going to be the leader as we move forward? Is it going to be China, which is already using a lot of the technologies pioneered in America to create industry for the 21st century? Or will the United States, we hear talk about it all the time, but there doesn't seem to be much action on it. I mean, last week, if you watched This Week with George Stephanopoulos, Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, was there to plead that they quadruple the amount of money the government invests in research and development for alternative energies, from $4 billion, which sounds like a lot to each one of us, But in terms of research and development financed by the government, it's a very small amount. And lift that to $16 billion. Bill Gates is someone who understands, I believe, that government investment in a necessary future technology is of the utmost importance, and he should understand that because the internet was originally developed under money seeded by the federal government. Of course, then private industry took it, and people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs took it off in a different direction. But it was the government that was involved there, and it should be the government that's involved now. There are a lot of other political reasons. I won't go into them now because I want to hear what these people have to say, but maybe in the Q&A later we'll be able to discuss why we haven't had this. Steve just remarked about the oil crisis in the 1970s. Jimmy Carter proposed a plan to make America energy sufficient, that we would move into the future and not have to depend on foreign resources for our energy. That plan, of course, was never developed. We never saw it expanded into any programs. What we got instead were 8 years of Ronald Reagan and 4 years of George Bush. And then, of course, we didn't see it under the Clinton years either, unfortunately, although we did see some. I don't want to go back into it, but Carter did have a bit, for all the complaints about Jimmy Carter, he did have a vision for the future. He wasn't able to communicate that and lead us into that future, unfortunately. Hopefully tonight we'll hear those words. When you go home, you'll probably see it on the news, whatever. Maybe he won't say anything. Who knows? You know, I am a big Obama supporter. I was, during the campaign. But I can't say that in every instance I am inspired by what has transpired over the last year and a half. I think in many ways he's accomplished a great deal. But there's so much more to be accomplished. So, as I said, my job is communication, and that's what I was just talking about here. But there are people here who understand science and mathematics and engineering, and also have coupled those talents with a skill, the skill of entrepreneurship, to develop companies and organizations that will lead us into that future. Hopefully, we're going to hear about the President speaking about later tonight. Okay, so thank you for coming here.